E.Square.
Content, information, and opinions expressed during the related show are those of the show personalities and guest alone, and not those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. With over 20 years of real estate experience and selling over 150 homes a year, Laura Sanders is the #1 RE/MAX agent in the state of Florida for 2021. Join us each week as we discuss how to make money through buying and flipping homes, to renting versus selling, and everything in between. To join the conversation, call in live. 888-994-4995, Studio A.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. Every week, we talk about something that helps you save a little money, make a little money, might teach you a little bit something in order to make your life a little bit easier in this crazy world that we navigate every day. Today, I know you guys are going to be really excited about this one. I have Marty Kiar. He is the property appraiser for Broward County. And gosh, you guys always have so many questions for him. And hopefully we're going to answer a few today. And if we need him to come back to get some more, we will. So welcome, Marty.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura, for having me. I've been really looking forward to this. And I appreciate the great work that you do, keeping the real estate community and just our community informed about very important issues that affect the people of South Florida. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I know you're very good about coming out to real estate companies and to the brokerages and title companies and teaching everybody. And I have to say that, you know, a lot of people have a lot of questions about what to do when it comes to taxes. I mean, we all hate to pay taxes. And I'm sure that sometimes you go to a party and they're like, you raised my taxes. And you're like, I didn't do anything. Like, that's just, you know. But so some people love you. Some people are probably like, you're a bad guy, but you're not. You're just the guy that is.
Well, thank you.
It's a job. It's a job, right? So basically we came up with some questions, but this is like honestly not even touching the icing. It's like not even the icing on the cake. Like we haven't even gotten to the cake with just a couple of questions, and this is going to go so fast. So a couple of questions,
Absolutely.
you know, for you that I think people always want to know. Number one, right? How many months does someone have to live in Florida to be a resident and to receive homestead? And I ask this question because a lot of people are not from Florida, obviously. They come from Connecticut. They come from other places, and residency is different in other places versus here.
That is such a fantastic question. And by the way, my dad actually yelled at me when he got his tax bill this year as well. So trust me, I get it from everybody. But you know, the great thing is under Florida law, there is no requirement that you live here for a specific amount of time to have a homestead exemption. All you have to do is be on your property on January 1st. It has to basically be your primary residence on January 1st. January 1st is what we call our date of assessment. That's the day we determine the value of all properties in the county, and that's the day we determine whether or not you're entitled to a homestead exemption or any other exemption that exists under Florida law. So if somebody makes their home here in Florida, or Broward County, for example, their primary residence on January 1st, which means they're registered to vote there. If they don't vote, where their declaration of domicile, where their car is registered to, if that's where they live, they made that their primary residence, they are entitled to a homestead exemption. They don't have to live here for 6 months, 2 months, 1 month. It just has to be their primary residence on January 1st, and they can get that very, very valuable exemption, which does two things, by the way. The first thing it does, it takes $50,000 of value off the tax roll they'll no longer pay taxes on. It can save them maybe $800, $900, possibly $1,000 a month, depending on the local millage rates. But most importantly, it really protects them going forward, because every year after they have a homestead exemption, the value of their tax then cannot go more than a maximum of 3%. And you know, in the real estate industry right now, price values have still skyrocketed this year compared to last year, the year before, and the year before that. And so I always tell everybody, if you haven't filed for a homestead exemption, but you've lived on your property on January 1st of this year, please file, because it'll make sure the value you're taxed on won't go up more than 3%, and your taxable value or assessed value won't skyrocket with your market value. So very important.
But what if, let's just say, when you say you have to live here January 1st, but what if, let's say you own a home in New York and you own a home here, right? But you're in New York 9-10 months out of the year and you only stay here 2. Are you still entitled to have a homestead?
You could be. So it all depends on the facts of the law. What I've learned about property in Florida and in Broward County is that what may work for one may not work for another based on the law and the facts. And there are a lot of people that live somewhere else a number of months out of the year. They live here for some period of time. They can still make this their homestead, but they can't do a few things. For example, if you rent your property while you're here, you may lose your homestead exemption. If you also have another homestead exemption in New York, because you mentioned New York, you're not entitled to a homestead exemption here. But if you have your home in New York and you have your home here, if this is where, again, you're registered to vote, where your declaration of domicile, if you don't vote, where your card's registered to, you can live here for any time, as long as you want, whether it's a lot, a little, as long as this is your primary residence, you can be entitled to that homestead exemption. What I always tell everybody, give me a call. If you're not sure if you qualify, we'll let you know if you do. So if anybody wants to call me or email me, we'll go through the facts with you. We'll figure out whether or not you're entitled to that exemption. But yes, you can absolutely be entitled to that exemption, even if you live in New York for 9 months and you're here for 3 months, as long as you meet other requirements.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I hear everything because 2 weeks ago, I got a call from a lady that lives in Sunrise, and she said that you stopped by her house. And I said, I don't think he stopped by your house. So I said, what's on the card? And she said, she turns it over and it's got a deputy on it or something, like another name on the back or something she read to me. Like, I mean, this is over the phone. I didn't see it, And so I said, she says, no, they're stopping in everybody's house. I'm like, no, they're not stopping in everybody's house. You did something. I just don't know what you did. And I said, well, yeah, no, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So actually what's going on there is under Florida law, we're required to physically inspect every single property once every 4 years. And Broward County is so massive that it takes us about 4 years to get to everybody's property. So this is basically just us inspecting her home to make sure there are no additions that have been added that weren't permitted, to make sure that, it's a condo. So we have to do that with condos as well. There's all kinds of things that we have to look at, but we have to physically inspect every property once every 4 years.
Inside
and so what will occur is we'll actually, not the inside of it, the outside of it. And we're actually looking at the entire outside of the condo as well. That depends. We won't go inside a property. So I don't know.
I was going to say, you haven't visited me, and
there.
I've been at my house for a while.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you haven't visited me, and I've been at my house for a while.
Oh, yeah. Well, what'll generally happen is we'll go to the property. And if there's no changes, we basically just leave that brochure there just to let people know that we were there and there's no further action. If there is something that needs to be put on the tax roll that we missed, or maybe that they didn't pull permits for, or something else, then we would say, please call us. We're going to make some adjustments for this year.
Wow.
But nobody should have went in the house. I will say this, if one of our appraisers went in her house, please have her give me a call, because that is not appropriate. We cannot do that.
Okay. No, they didn't. She said that they wanted to go into her house. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. I said, that's why I asked her what was on the card, because I said, you know what? You can go on to bcpa.net. I said, and to the left-hand side, you'll see the homepage. And if you're not sure that what you got is real, give them a call and they'll tell you whether or not that is real or not. Because you never know if people are preying on older people. You don't know if they're trying to, but that's good to know. I mean,
absolutely.
And you know what, for our listeners, I think they really need to listen that, hey, they're checking out if you're pulling permits for stuff.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So our goal is just to make sure people only pay their fair share of taxes. That's it, on their fair share of value. And the way that it works is when we determine a value for a property, if it's not property that changed hands, basically it's existingly owned property, we're not fee appraisers, we're mass appraisers. We basically know how big the property is and its location. And then what we do is we add value to it each year based on if you make certain types of improvements. So if you make the square footage of your property bigger, let's say you had a garage or something of that nature, that could actually increase the value you pay taxes on. If you had a pool, that could increase it. Pavers could nominally increase it. There are different things. And so what actually happens is every single week, each city sends us all the permits that were pulled for that week. And what we will do is we'll disregard most of the permits that deal with the inside of the property. So we don't care if somebody's making their bathroom better or their kitchen better. We don't care about any of that stuff. We really just care about if the property is being made bigger and if there are other features that may be added to it. And those are the ones that we keep. And those are the ones that will also physically inspect those properties as well, to find out when those improvements are done. And then there's a good chance if they are, we'll then add that to the tax roll.
Oh, wow. So impact windows would be something that would add some value because it's the outside, technically.
It wouldn't.
No, okay.
That's a fantastic question. Well, it's not that. Under Florida law, and I love this law, we are prohibited from increasing the value you pay taxes on if you make your home better for hurricane purposes and things of that nature. So impact windows,
or
things of that nature, anybody can, a new roof for the most part. There are some roofs that can make it nominally a little bit more, but not a whole lot. But for the most part, there are some that we're prohibited as well. So it all depends. What I actually always tell everybody, I go, listen, if you're going to do anything to your home, whether you're going to put new windows in, you're going to put pavers in, a pole in, you're going to make it bigger, just give us a call and we'll let you know exactly what will happen to your property taxes if you do that, so you can make the best decision possible as to whether or not, if you want to do that. So we're always here as a resource for the public.
Okay. All right. That's great. So what happens? This has happened a lot, and I send out notice to my clients to remind them, but they don't pay attention to me. So what happens if you forget to apply for homestead? Will it go back retroactive? Like you had,
that's it.
You close and then you don't realize you're supposed to apply, and I've had clients where it's 3 years later and I look and I go, hey, you didn't apply for homestead. And they're like, what's that? No.
That's a great question. And thank you so much for letting them know as well. So what will happen is, we try to do everything we could possibly do to let people know about the homestead exemption and every exemption. As soon as somebody even buys a home, they'll get a packet from us in the mail with everything, including portability, things of that nature. But what happens is, with regard to the homestead exemption, very rarely can we go back in time. The only way we can go back in time is if the person that didn't apply for homestead attempted to apply for homestead before, and we have a record of it. So, for example, they sent in an application or they started an application. Something of that nature can help us potentially go back. But for the most part, if you don't apply, we can't go back, but you can apply for the year going forward. So right now, for example, it is almost February. And let's say somebody bought their home in December of last year. What they could actually do now, if they bought their home in December of last year, they would have till September 18th of this year to apply for homestead for 2024. If they don't apply by September 18th, then they cannot apply for homestead until the next September 18th, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Also, I
Definitely.
know that I was reading, this was like about a year ago, I was reading because I was getting ready to do a presentation on portability for one of my networking groups. And I read, and I ask people this question, realtors, I ask them all the time. I'm like, how long do you have to apply for portability? And they'll say 2 years. I'm like, nope, you're wrong. Because I read this.
Thank you so much. You are awesome, Laura. Thank you.
3 years from the January from which you bought your house. So if you bought your house in December last year, it's January from the beginning of 2023. And then, so it's 3 years from last January if you bought it in December.
You are so right. You know what? I love the fact that you explained that.
I love asking that question to realtors.
Oh, it's fantastic. You know what? It is portability, as you know, is awesome. May I explain it real fast for the folks that are watching?
It is great.
Or listening? So portability is a fantastic program that can help people save a whole lot of money in their property taxes. And here's the way it works. When you buy your home, you file for homestead. And when you did that, the Save Our Homes Assessment Clause of the Florida Constitution kicked into place. It basically said that every year thereafter, the value of your tax site cannot go more than a maximum of 3%. So over time, your market value gets very, very high. Your assessed value stays very, very lower because of that cap. You have all this value in between you don't pay taxes on. If you now decide you want to buy another property of equal or greater value, you take whatever difference that is with you between your market and your assessed value with you to your new home and not pay taxes on it. If you buy a home of lower value, you take a percentage of it, and you can still save a lot of money in your taxes. The keys, though, under Florida law is you can move up to $500,000 of value, whatever you've accumulated. But as you said, Laura, you have to use it within 3 tax years. And for our purpose, a tax year starts on January 1st. So right now, it's February. This is a fantastic time to establish your new property. Or if you bought a property, let's say, you would now have right now, or to sell your home, because you would have this entire year. So basically, this next 11 months, and then 2 tax years on top of that to be able to transfer your portability value. It is fantastic. It's worse for portability purposes if you're going to not buy another home very soon to sell your property at the end of the year because your entire tax year would have went away. I hope that helped explain it a little bit.
It does. In fact, I had a lady that her husband had passed away and she just didn't want to be in the house anymore. She'd called me last year. I said, listen, you've had a lot of change in your life. I think you should hold on. And I really want to be here. And I'm like, I understand that, but you've already lost your husband. That's a lot of change. Let's readdress this next year. So we go and we readdress it. And she says, you know what? I'm not going to buy. I'm just going to rent. And I said to her, listen, we're in October. Like, if you were to sell and you told me you're going to change your job, totally different job. I said, you're going to now need 2 years of income to buy again. And because of when you're selling and when you would be able to buy again, you would lose your portability. It wouldn't be there anymore. So I said, it makes sense for you to go ahead and buy something a little less expensive right now. And you can always sell that later and buy something of more of what you want later on, and you can even rent this and get something else. So she ended up buying. But if I didn't understand that, and I looked at the difference, I showed her. In her case, the savings was astronomical. Like, I'm talking came out to like $2,500 a year. That's $200
and that's
a
every
month.
year.
Right.
Yeah.
And I explained to people sometimes, because you bought when you did, you're saving all this money, which to me is a big deal. Like, to save that money.
It is.
Yeah. And a lot of times the mortgage guys and girls, I don't want to say guys, the mortgage lender, right, will tell a buyer, oh, your payment is going to be X, right? And most times, yes, the taxes are going to go up. But sometimes they're actually going to go down. And you have to look at every single buyer individually to see how that's going to look for them. Because if they've been in their house for 10 years, it actually, and they're buying somebody's house that they've only owned it for 3, their taxes might be less than that person. And the mortgage lender's giving them an estimate for their mortgage that's more than what it's really going to be. So
it's true. You know, a great example is if somebody is 100% totally permanently disabled veteran, they are fully exempt for paying taxes.
Right.
So they're going to have a lower tax bill than anybody else. I mean, it's kind of like you said, everybody's situation's a little bit different. What may work for one may not work for another based on that person's circumstances, the facts, and the law. That's why I always tell everybody, just give me a call. Let's go through it together, and we'll be able to really give you some good guidance on that. But I love the fact that you're so proactive and talking to your clients and doing what you're doing. I think that's fantastic. Thank you for doing that one.
Yeah. We're going to go to a commercial break, but when we come back, we're not even going to get through all these questions. And I kind of knew that was going to happen, but wanted to make sure we had enough time to talk. So stay tuned. We're going to see our great sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Whether you're buying, selling, refinancing, or building your dream home, you have a lot riding on your loan specialist. Max Fish, a top 1% mortgage loan officer in the nation, will give you a same-day qualifying quote. Max Fish is committed to providing his customers with mortgage services that exceed their expectations. Ensuring that you make the right choice for you and your family is his ultimate goal. Contact Max Fish today at 954-729-6933 or max.fisch@nwmcorp.net.
At JK Closing Attorneys, we do all of the same things that a title company does, but with the benefits of being a law office. We can help with residential real estate, short sales, commercial real estate, refinances, 1031 exchanges, and FIRPTA withholding.
Contact JK Closing Attorneys today at 954-332-3111. Again, that is 954-332-3111.
You have been watching Making Money with Laura. For more information, contact Laura Sanders at 954-650-0827 or visit her website at thelauracell.com. And now back to the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders. And I am your host, Laura Sanders. Today, we have such a special guest. We have Marty Kiar from the Broward County Property Appraiser's office, and he is answering so many of your questions that you guys ask all the time. And I knew that he was the best person for us to give us the direct answers rather than listening to lawyers and title agents tell us maybe the wrong information. So welcome back.
Thank you, Laura.
With us today. We really appreciate it. So I had something recently happen, so not to beat a dead horse, right? But I think you get a lot of dead horses all day long with this job because there's so much stuff that goes on. So I had a client, and I know that they called your office. He forgot to apply for homestead and the portability. Like, he sold his house, and he didn't even apply for homestead. He didn't apply for the portability. So because he made that mistake, and you can see when they bought their house, is that something they can rectify? Or again, no, it's too bad, so sad?
It all depends on the facts and the circumstances. Remember, portability, you have 3 tax years to use it. So even if you didn't file for homestead that first year, let's say you missed the first year, and even if you missed the second year,
and the third.
But if you go the third year, and the third, he could still file for homestead later, but he may be time barred from portability. But what I would always tell everybody, in any situation like that, email me specifically. Let me take a look at it and really do an in-depth review. Because if I can help somebody, I'm always going to do it. Our staff's always going to do it. There are certain circumstances where we're time barred under the law, where we're just not allowed to do it. But if I'm able to find gray area where I can help somebody, or maybe there's something in there that under the law gives us the opportunity to help them, I'm always going to do it. So, definitely always please email me. My email is just martykiar@bcpa.net. And if anybody goes on our website at bcpa.net, they can click on email Marty. I answer emails all day, every day. I always want to give it a try on that gentleman. If you could ask him to email me as well. If my staff looked into it, he's probably time barred. I'm sure they're right, but I still would like to give it a look as well, if that's okay.
A lot of children that are in their 50s live with their parents. And they haven't put the house into a ladybird deed, which a lot of people don't know what that is. And I have to say that's a pretty good, vehicle to use when your parents are older. But a lot of children, like I said, they're in their 50s, they're living with their parents, and their parents pass away, and their parents had $2,500 taxes, and the kids were living there. That was their homestead. So how can these children preserve those taxes?
So it depends. And again, this depends on the specific facts of what's going on there. So generally, and you're right, what happens is the parents have been there for a long time. Maybe they've been homesteaded for 30 years. And that entire time, they get the benefit of the Save Our Homes assessment cap. So basically meaning the value of their tax line couldn't go up more than 3%. So fast forward 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 years, their market value is much, much higher than their assessed value because of that cap. If the parents are the only ones that are on the deed and only ones homesteaded on that property, what occurs is once they pass on, the property gets reset to market value, and then the people that inherit the property, their taxes go from here to here because that assessed value, all that value that they weren't paying tax on goes away because it got reset to market value. There are some ways under the law that maybe the person inheriting the property can potentially protect themselves, but it all depends. And I'll give you one example. Let's say, for example, the husband, let's say you have a mom, and let's say the mom owns the property and the mom is homesteaded and the mom is on the deed, but that a mom has an adult son that lives with her. If the mom adds the son that lives with her, and the son doesn't have a homestead anywhere else, he lives with the mom, if she adds him to the deed as joint tenants with right of survivorship, makes it his homestead as well, then if the mom passes on, he would then take the property, basically it'd go right to him, and he would take it at the same tax rate, basically the same assessed value the mom was paying taxes on. But here's the thing, though, that people need to be careful about. If you add somebody to your deed, whether it's your son or your daughter or anybody else, they're then going to have as many rights to that property as you do, especially if it's joint tenants with right of survivorship. And so what that basically means, if you want to sell your property, if you want to do whatever you want to do with your property, you can't do it without their approval as well. So if somebody's going to make that change, Just make sure that's something they really, really want to do. You're going to want to talk to a lawyer. Call our office. You can speak to our lawyers. They can also go through the entire thing with you and just give you good guidance, because you really want to make sure you make the best decision possible. That's one way to protect yourself. But for the most part, under most circumstances under Florida law, once the person that owns the property passes away, the property gets reset to market value, and the taxes do go up.
I try to tell them, but they don't listen. Anyway, we have run out of time. Can you believe it? That was so quick.
Okay. Oh, my goodness. Oh, you're
That's
awesome.
what
I
I
enjoyed
say.
this so much, though, Laura.
Yes, I'm
No,
going to
these
need
were
you
great
again.
questions.
I'm definitely going to need you
I
again.
would love to.
So, but thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to give us some information. I know that a lot of people are going to listen to this show just because it's you. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
And thank you for
Thank
being
you.
on with Making Money with Laura Sanders. And I am your realtor, Laura Sanders. If you're thinking about buying or selling, I'm definitely your girl. Give me a call, 954-650-0827, or go to lauracell.com. Thanks, and make it a great night.
Thank you for tuning in for Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. To join the conversation, call us at the studio, 888-994-4995 Studio A, or contact Laura directly at 954-650-0827. Laura Sanders, a name you can trust.